I think you get along with him. Where would, if you were a teammate now, and what do you think of what he has done today?
Well, when I played back with him, he was a very stand-up guy. You know, having a lot to prove, having a chip on his shoulder, and I respected it about this young man. And one thing that I will say, I am standing behind Colin Kaepernick. I think right now may be be a bad time to do it because of the 9/11 anniversary. But the one thing I'm looking at with Kaepernick, you know, he's not really being disrespectful. They thought he was being disrespectful when he was standing up. So what did he do? He took a knee. So then he gets all these jersey sales. He gives the money back to the cause. Then he's taking $1 million of his own money to the cause, backed by the owner. So to me, that means there is something good behind what Colin Kaepernick is doing. There's a lot of people around the country that doesn't like it. Okay, but one thing that I took from him is the justice for all. Okay. I'm an African-American man. I'm going to continue to be African-American until I die. But the justice for all is what Kaepernick was saying. There's people out here laying dead in the streets of our country, okay? And nobody's taking heed to that. Nobody is even standing for that. So I understand where he's coming from. But from the business side of it, you know, there may be another approach. But like I say, I stand behind Colin Kaepernick. His owner, Jet York, is standing behind him, donating $1 million. I think that President Obama just said that is a very sensitive subject that a lot of us Americans do not want to discuss. But hey, it's right upon us right now. So if I could say anything to the 31 other owners out there, I'm not telling you to really change everything that you're doing, but you have other minorities in your cities, in your states, that buys those tickets, that buys those jersey sales, that agree with Colin Kaepernick. So I think there's some sense of really both sides being able to come together. Football is America's sport, okay? We have the stage for it. 31 other owners out there. I think they need to come together to try to get this thing under wraps, because if it doesn't, it's going to cause problems.
I'm just looking at, you know, this being 9/11 and watching some of the current players talk about 9/11 and where they were, you know, that day. I remember exactly where I was that day. I was at home, and remember, you know, getting a phone call and somebody saying, turn on the TV, you know, somebody just flew a plane into, you know, the World Trade Center. And having been there, knowing how massive that building was, I'm thinking to myself, oh, you know, somebody probably flew a crop duster into that building. Right. That's not going to affect it. You know, you turn the TV on, and all of a sudden you see these planes, you know, flying into these buildings, and then all of a sudden these buildings, you know, collapsing. And then you find out what it was behind. And so now you're thinking in your mind, how could someone feel, how could they wrap their minds around killing innocent people for really no reason other than how you think or how you live your life, right? And so then I correlate that to Colin Kaepernick and his issue with the flag in America and where we are right now. And I think his question is, how is it that black people can be treated a certain way because of how they look, the color of their skin, how dark it is or how dark it isn't? And so I understand his point, and to Randy's point, I get what he's saying, this justice for all. You know, if you asked me 3 weeks ago, you know, what's one of the things I'm going to miss about playing the game of football? And I would tell people that, man, standing up there on that sideline and singing that national anthem, the flag is up and the whole nine, that was one of the great joys of my life, right? And so then what happens is when you have these protests, you start looking at different things. And then you go back and you look at the author of the national anthem, right? This guy, he had slaves. You know, you look at Francis Scott Key, he was a slave owner. So now as I'm thinking about the national anthem, and I hear that line for the, you know, land of the free, he wasn't talking about me. You know, he wasn't talking about Randy. So when we talk about Colin Kaepernick and the stand that he's taking, he's saying, look, let there be justice for all of us, including me and Randy, including all of you on this set today. So I actually applaud him for having the gall to stand up when he knew what kind of ridicule he was going to get, when most people would not do it, when he knew the backlash he was going to get. I see every time I turn on the TV, there's a conversation about Colin Kaepernick, and I think he went into it, he thought about it, and he said, you know what, I'm going to do this during the game. And another point Randy made is we talk about him protesting and being disrespectful. He didn't pull his shoulder pads off and run around the stadium and go grab some prop and run around and be disruptive. No, he sat down in peaceful protest. And if I was in the military and I looked over there and I seen this young man protesting in peace, I would actually feel proud that as a military man, woman, that the freedoms that I go across these waters and fight for, that's it. Exercise right there with this young man sitting down and doing it peacefully.
It's interesting we're having this discussion today because the guy that sat right here for 31 years handled social issues as they related to football better than anybody in television, Tom Jackson. And I was lucky enough to learn from him my first few years at ESPN. And as we would talk through big social issues that came up as they weaved themselves into football, he always said, make sure you realize who's watching us. Football fans. And I live in the Bay Area, and I've read at least 30 articles on this. And every single night, our TVs are inundated with the Colin Kaepernick stuff. And it is a massive issue. I think, for the most part, the football community has been irresponsible of how we've handled it, because people aren't tuning into us to hear about what we feel about a lot of these social issues. Now, first of all, what you two said, I do think that's appropriate. Matthew and I have a very small voice in this. We haven't experienced what Colin has experienced, what you guys have experienced at times. But I do think the audience also needs to understand how this relates to football and a team. And I think the beauty of football that we all miss so much, you guys more than me because you're just coming out of it, is football's the ultimate team game. And you want to be a championship teammate, you fully want to be bought into having your team have the best chance of success, then you put your team above yourself. And no matter how passionate you are, no matter how much of a burden you have for a social issue, you don't let it get in the way of the team. And the big thing that hit me through all this is a backup quarterback whose job is to be quiet and sit in the shadows and get the starter ready to play week 1. Yet he chose a time where all of a sudden he became the center of attention. And it has disrupted that organization. It has caused friction and has torn at the fabric of the team. Although I respect what he's doing, and I respect the passion and burden he has for this issue, a massive issue, I do not respect the fact that he put himself and his stance above his team, because he's not the only one that's passionate about big social issues. There's also slavery going on in our country right now. There's people that are passionate about the End It movement and international justice mission, which are handling enormous social issues about children in slavery in our country. And there's players in our league that are just as passionate about that, but they don't use the platform that an organization, a team gave them to find it as a pulpit. And I think Colin used very poor judgment in when he chose to make this honorable stand for something he's passionate about, because ultimately it tears at the fabric of your team.
But this stand that he took, and I understand you saying he made it about himself, but this isn't about Colin Kaepernick. And we talk about him being on a team and being a football team and it being an ultimate team game. We're talking about humanity.
Yep.
This involves everybody. So Colin Kaepernick and him taking a stand on that football field and doing it at the time that he did it, I keep hearing people saying, I just heard you said there's a time and a place for people to do certain things like this, but what's the objectivity of any protest? It's to get maximum exposure for what it is you're talking about. I think this is an opportunity missed by the NFL, an opportunity missed by his team, because when you think about the NFL locker room, it's one of those places that's as diverse as any other place, with black, white, Samoan, or whatever it is. I think it was the perfect time and the perfect moment for this team to galvanize around each other and become a stronger team. They have an opportunity here. And I think for the NFL to take the stance that they take, I think Roger Goodell should have said, you know what, I respect Colin Kaepernick's decision to do what he did and stood behind Kaepernick instead of making it always a division between us and them.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up happening. Colin Kaepernick's message is about everybody.
That's fair.
Not just
But the best thing, in my mind, the best thing about this situation and being in locker rooms, guys in locker rooms on football teams, they usually talk about the same things all the time. Hey, what's up? You know, it's always the same stuff. Because of this situation, you see around the league in every single locker room, guys from different backgrounds talking about things that never really get discussed. And we don't know fully how things will play out today with the national anthem everywhere, but you see in Seattle, clearly they have come together as a team through this, acknowledging our differences, acknowledging ways that we can show more respect and grow together, build a bridge, I think they're calling it. I think there will be a lot of good that will come from this thing that he's done.
Let's move forward.